Khazarian Kabul purge accelerates. Marines storm CIA HQ. Over 2,000 indicted in U.S. Collapse of control grid in Europe. The purge of satanic Khazarian Kabul that turned the West evil is accelerating at an undeniable pace. Most importantly, Pentagon sources confirm multiple internet reports that Marines stormed the CIA headquarters this past weekend. One of the aims was to shut down Operation Mockingbird, the CIA group that turned the mass media, as well as Google, Facebook, etc. into mass mind and control propaganda, say the NSA sources. The institutional heirs to the group that murdered President John F. Kennedy are also being rounded up, according to Pentagon sources. The Department of Justice and Special Counsel Robert Mueller are working overtime and may exceed 2,000 still indictments, a Pentagon sources say. This move, combined with the purge of also the royals and military who were linked to 11 September, as well as the removal of Zimbabwe dictator Robert Mugabe and the imminent removal of Israeli Santanist Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, leave no doubt that the long-awaited arrest and rounds-up of capitalists worldwide has begun. The Rothschild family group is also losing control over Europe. In Germany, Chancellor Angela Merkel failed to form a new government. In France, 100 legislators from Rothschild slave President Emmanuel Macron's party have detected, as mass protests against this election stealer's rule break out all across the country. In England, Rothschild slave Prime Minister Theresa May is also unpopular and expected to be removed soon. Meanwhile, in Japan, Admiral Harris Harris, commander of the United States Pacific Command, met with slave Prime Minister Shinzo Abe last week. According to sources who were at the meeting, Abe told Harris that Japan was preparing concentration camps for floods of North Korean refugees that Abe expects to arrive once Harris provokes a war with that country. Harris told Abe that he would do his best to make sure North Korea was stopped, the sources said. Harris has thus proved that he's either incredibly stupid, incredibly evil, or incredibly bribed, probably a combination of all three. This one man is now preventing humanity from being freed from Khazarian mafia tyranny. Harris is sheltering the war criminal, traitor, and drug dealer Richard Armitage, as well as Rothschild criminal agent Michael Greenberg at the Yokota Air Base in Japan. He also presided over the recent theft, yet again, of a Japanese national election by Rothschild slave Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Abe's looting of Japan's postal savings, public pensions, and other public money is the only thing keeping the worldwide Khazarian crime syndicate from losing all power. It is money being stolen from Japan that is propping up the U.S. stock market bubble and keeping the Khazarian-owned United States corporation from going bankrupt and being replaced with a genuine democracy controlled by the people, for the people. The newly empowered Abe is now rushing ahead to build a biological warfare research facilities disguised as a khaki veterinary school. That means Harris is supporting a war criminal and is thus himself a war criminal. Signaling who his real masters are, Harris made a speech supporting the Khazarian control grid at the Frank Lowy Institution on December 14, 2016. Lowy, together with Larry Stevenson, bought the World Trade Center buildings shortly before the September 11, 2001 Khazarian terror attack in New York. Harris is also under pressures from Lockheed Martin and other arms manufacturers to start a war with North Korea in order to promote arms sales and keep the Khazarian mafia in power. Harris is also in on the Khazarian plot to start World War III and murder 90% of humanity. Waiting until May of next year for this man to end his term is not acceptable. Admiral Harris, this is a promise. You will be arrested, court-martialed, and jailed as a war criminal and a traitor. You will also be held legally accountable for the murder by torture of 3 individuals you presided over the Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. In any case, as mentioned above, the Khazarian hierarchy above Admiral Harris continues to be systematically dismantled, meaning the dragnet is closing in on him. When he is gone, The U.S. military police will march into Tokyo and arrest Armitage, Greenberg, Abe, and other gangsters who subcontract for the Khazarians here. Sources in the NSA and CIA say that hundreds of arrests already took place in the United States last week. A decision was made to not announce the arrest. However, because doing so would allow for others to escape before the arrested people could rat on them, the sources say. There are also many Khazarian hit squads operating in the U.S. right now in a desperate attempt to maintain their control grid over that country, Pentagon sources say. These hit squads are being systematically eliminated. Part of that has been announced in the form of the arrest of 267 members of the MS-13 gang. Also in the clear sign Khazarian rule is now collapsing, the non-Jewish governors of the Federal Reserve Board are talking about giving money directly to the people instead of their current practice of handling it out to billionaires and trillionaires. For example, John Williams, the head of the San Francisco Fed, talked about nominal income targeting, which is Fed speak of handing cash directly to the people. In Europe, Miguel Angel Fernandez Ordóñez, the former governor of Spain's central bank, told Parliament on November the 7th that replacing monetary creation by privately owned banks with money created by a government-owned institution would be a good thing. This sort of public commentary by officials who are in actual power over money is a visible sign the old privately owned central bank control grid is crumbling. Pentagon sources are also saying that regime change is no longer a U.S. province, as a military coup in Zimbabwe happened after the army chief went to China, and it is needed to position the asset-backed Zimbabwe dollar as Africa's reserve currency prior to the global currency reset. This fits in what we have reported in the previous posting about India, Russia, and China telling U.S. President Donald Trump in Vietnam about their move to set up a gold-backed currency as an alternative to the U.S. dollar. It also fits in with the news of Venezuela default being played down because what really happened was that Venezuela stopped supporting the Khazarian petrodollar. The Rothschilds have been warned to give up on trying to derail this process by starting World War III, according to CIA and Pentagon sources. The mid-air collision above the Rothschild-mentioned Waterson Manor may be a warning to back off from war with Iran, a Pentagon source said. Also, the UN act to prevent the latest attempt to start a world war by sending a letter to diplomats last week informing them that the Saudi accusation that Iranian-backed Houthi rebels fired a missile at them were false. Israel, waking up to the fact that its apocalyptic plans are illusion, is now desperately trying to form an alliance with Arab nations like Saudi Arabia in order to ensure its survival. It seems as if they are saying, we Semites have got to stick together. Common sense would detect that the Arabs will only do this after peace is reached with Palestinians, and their stolen lands are either returned or compensated for. The need for Israel to finally make peace with its neighbors is also being underlined by the ongoing purge of Jewish and Israeli influence in the U.S. On that front, Pentagon sources say Russia Today and Sputnik were forced to register as foreign agents to set a precedent for the U.S. Department of Justice to force the AIPIC and other Jewish organizations to do the same. The same sources are saying the sudden rash of accusations of sexual misconduct were also part of the purge of Jewish influence. Jewish comedian and Democratic Senator Al Franken were accused of sexual misconduct, and he may get expelled from the Senate as the purge of the Jewish mafia escalates beyond Hollywood to D.C. Creepy Joe Biden is next. Also, the Pentagon sources say the Fortress Investment Group and the owner of SoftBank, Masayoshi Son, were pressured not to lend money to the Winston Company, leading to its bankruptcy. Japanese right-wing sources say Son is now being used as one of the main conduits to distribute fiat money being controlled up by the Bank of Japan. He has also been given petrodollars by Saudi Arabia. However, a source who has worked for Rothschild for a long time says that Son and Microsoft founder Bill Gates have together built a large underground banker network in Karuizawa, Japan. The sources say Son paid for most of it, presumably using BOG money extorted from the empire by Henry Kissinger. Another source who worked as a golf caddy for Son said he overheard him ordering a list of people to be murdered. The U.S. military has been advised to find an alternative to Son and other criminals like former Finance Minister Hazel Takenaga to distribute the BOG money. Son is not popular with the Japanese underworld, and his radioactive half-life is not expected to last much longer. If Son has any comments to make about this, he can respond to me via email. On a final note, a member of Abe's cabinet last week offered this writer a multi-million-dollar bribe to get him to stop writing my wiki reports. He was told politely to stick his bribe offer where the sun does not shine.